Hey guys, Argent here. I'd just like to begin this video, as always when I'm talking about something of a psychological nature, with a disclaimer. I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a counselor, I don't have a degree in psychology, I don't have certification. This is just for entertainment and educational purposes. Now that that's out of the way, you may be wondering, why am I giving a disclaimer for that like that when I'm doing a character profile of Harry Potter, as can be seen from the title of this video? Well, because I think to understand Harry, you have to understand what I think his condition is. Because attempting to understand Harry's personality is fucking impossible, because he doesn't really have a personality. He's a bit like Daenerys Targaryen, who I think also suffers from borderline personality disorder. He really lacks a clearly defined sense of self. I mean, who is Harry? What does he believe in? What is his personality like? I don't know. Ron, I can describe his personality. Hermione, I could give a detailed thesis on her personality. Harry, though, I guess he's brave and heroic. But what does that mean exactly, except for being morally relatable and having a disregard for personal safety? It doesn't mean much. I never liked Harry when I was reading the books. I like Fanon Harry a lot. Fanon Harry is much better than Canon Harry. But overall, Canon Harry is just kind of a blank slate. He's tabula rasa. And I think I've understood why. So, borderline personality disorder. Borderline personality disorder is also known as emotionally unstable personality disorder, impulsive emotional disorder, etc. The term borderline initially came from the fact that it was on the borderline between neurotic and psychotic disorders. Psychotic meaning delusional disorders like schizophrenia, and neurotic being things like OCD, PTSD, that kind of thing. So, the essential features include impulsivity and instability behaviors, unstable personal relationships, and an unstable self image. The pattern is presented by early adulthood and occurs across a wide variety of situations and context. Symptoms include intense fears of abandonment, intense anger and irritability, the reason for which others have difficulty understanding. People with borderline personality disorder often engage in idealization and devaluation of others, alternating between high positive regard and great disappointment. Self harm, suicidal behavior, and substance abuse are common. Okay, so let's see here. What are the symptoms of this? So, like, why do I bring this up for Harry? And we'll get into this as we go through. So, splitting is the first symptom. Splitting is thinking of things in black and white terms. That doesn't mean that you think good and evil exist. That doesn't mean you think that some people are completely evil, like just monsters, and some people are like saints. That's not what black and white thinking means. Black and white thinking means you don't recognize moral or qualitative ambiguity on anything. Like you don't kind of like an ice cream cone. Like you say, oh, the flavor's not the best. It's not for me. You either say this is the worst ice cream flavor I've ever had, or this is the best ice cream flavor I've ever had. People are either wholly good or wholly evil. They don't have complex emotions. They don't have complex motivations. It's an inability to accept moral ambiguity. Keep in mind, by moral ambiguity, I don't mean, like I said, that good and evil don't exist. I mean, it's you think everyone and everything is 100% good and 100% evil, which is, I think, a core aspect of Harry Potter. The purebloods are presented as being 100% evil. None of their concerns are ever voiced. None of the good guys do anything wrong. The bad guys are all just caricatures of what liberals think conservatives are like. And they don't go into the psychology, the why exactly. And you could say, well, Argent, you caricature people all the time. Well, that's true, but this is a political channel, and I state what my political views are in the description, and I say I cover things from an alt-right perspective. So I'm upfront about it. I mean, this is a political channel. I cover media like this, but I do it from a political perspective, to a large extent. So it's the Harry Potter books aren't supposed to be political. It doesn't. They weren't written as that. They were written as young adult fiction. But the villains seem to have no motivations other than just being evil. They torture people for no reason, etc. And this is reflected in how Harry views people. He views Gryffindors as 100% good, Ravenclaws, Slytherins as 100% bad. He views the other houses, the other two houses, with suspicion because they aren't obviously good enough, so they're immediately suspect. He believes Dumbledore can do nothing wrong. For pretty much the entirety of the books, regardless of what Ron does, he regards him as being 100% good. Um, his opinion of people, I find, tends to be 100% one way or the other, and he makes no real effort to understand the motivations of people, and he seems to have no ability to understand moral ambiguity or complex moral situations. Chaos in relationships, I think this one's pretty self-explanatory. Harry has a chaotic relationship with everybody in the series. He seems to have, in my view at least, a total lack of empathy. He can't really understand other people. He never really tries to. He's very kind of quiet and not really brooding. There just doesn't seem to be much there. I just find in general he's just very blank, very kind of sedated, very lacking in anything. But yet all his relationships seem to be stable. He has very few friends. Not that there's anything wrong with that. But if you have few friends, you need to have a strong self-image, which she doesn't have. So the relationship with Dumbledore is chaotic. The relationship with all of his professors is chaotic. It's chaotic with his friends. It's chaotic with the Weasleys. All the people in his life, he has an utterly chaotic relationship with. Marked or disputed, disturbed sense of identity. Harry has no sense of identity. He's just kind of, as with many people with borderline personality disorder, he just absorbs whatever people around him kind of spit into him. Whatever people around him, whatever their dreams, their ideals, their ideas, he just absorbs it into himself. And that becomes who he is. This can be seen in how he just absorbs Hagrid's biases, how he absorbs Dumbledore's biases, Ron's biases, Hermione's biases, and he never questions them. He just takes everything 100% at face value. Intense or uncontrollable emotional triggers. I find this a lot with Harry. He just kind of rages out sometimes, and then other times he just doesn't, and it's when he should rage out. Unstable interpersonal relationships and self-esteem. We've discussed that already. Harry has horrific self-esteem to the point where I feel he doesn't never really tries. He never really tries to do well in school. He never tries to make a life for himself. He kind of falls into his relationship with a fangirl who just kind of unconditionally loves him because she's obsessed with him. He doesn't really try to go for the obvious girl who would actually be good for him, aka Hermione. Concerns about abandonment, massive. Harry has a massive abandonment complex to the point he will put up with severe emotional abuse from Molly Weasley and Ron and a number of other characters because he's so afraid of being abandoned. He clings to Remus Lupin, who's an asshole who abandoned him. He clings to Sirius Black, and he has a breakdown when Sirius dies. Beyond what normal grief would be like, even though he barely knew Sirius Black, and Sirius was kind of a dick anyways. So he has massive abandonment concerns. Self-damaging behavior, do we really need to go into detail about this? Harry just kind of rushes into everything. He never really tries to do well in school. I guess the DA was a bit like that, but they kind of gave up on that after a while. He doesn't really seem in general to spend much time studying to try and prepare himself, to try and be better. He just rushes into things without making a plan, and ultimately he was conditioned by Dumbledore since birth to have a death wish as part of some prophetic bullshit involving a phylactery that's in his forehead. I'm not making that up. So yeah, he has a death wish. The books explicitly state he has a death wish. Impulsivity, yes. I don't even need to go into detail about that. His constant wandering the halls, his abuse of the invisibility cloak, etc. Frequently accompanied by depression, anger, anxiety, substance abuse, or rage. Yes. Sensitivity to rejection, negative criticism, and thoughts and fears of possible abandonment. Yes, Harry refuses to get close to anyone. He refuses to try hard in his life, in any aspect of his life, because he is afraid of abandonment, failure, and negative criticism. His self-image is entirely based on that of the people around him and how they relate to him. There isn't a core there that is independent from that. He seems very. Other symptoms may include feeling unsure of one's personal identity and values, having paranoid thoughts, yes, and severe dissociation. I think all of that applies to Harry Potter. You could say that that's just because he's a variant of the silent protagonist who's there to kind of relate to the viewer. But where's the fun in that? This is more fun, and this is why he annoys me as a character. I think he's the worst character in Harry Potter. No, it's hard. Ron's the most annoying character. Voldemort's the worst written character, and Harry Potter gets more screen time, so he's worse. So, what is the main cause of borderline? And this is where we really get into why I think Harry has it. Other than the fact that he obviously meets all the symptoms as we previously described. So we don't know, we can't do a genetic test on him because he's a fictional character. So we're going to look at the main... We don't know about his genetics, we don't know about his brain abnormalities. So the main experiential thing that leads to borderline personality disorder is childhood trauma. There is a strong correlation between child abuse, especially sexual child abuse, and the development of borderline personality disorder. Many individuals with BPD report a history of abuse and neglect, like Harry, as young children, but causation is still debated. Patients with borderline personality disorder have found to be significantly more likely to report having been verbally, yes, emotionally, yes, physically or sexually, we don't know, but probably, abused by caregivers of either gender, in this case both. They have also recorded a higher instance of incest and loss of caregivers in early childhood. Yes, Harry gained and lost caregivers when he went to school and when his parents died. Incest not exactly, but he got abuse from his brother figure, so I guess that's kind of a bit similar. Let's see here. Individuals with borderline personality disorder were also more likely to report having caregivers of both sexes deny the validity of their thoughts and feelings. Yes, constantly. Caregivers were also reported to have failed to provide needed protection, yes, and to have neglected their child's physical care. Parents of both sexes were typically reported to have withdrawn from the child emotionally and to have treated the child inconsistently. Yes. Additionally, women with borderline personality disorder who report a previous history of neglect by a female caregiver and abuse by a male caregiver. That's exactly how it worked with Harry. Petunia ignored him and Vernon abused him. Maltreatment and attachment difficulties may go on to develop it. I think that is basically an exact description of Harry's childhood. So he not only, in my unprofessional view, meets the diagnosis criteria for borderline personality disorder, he also has the likely cause of it is from his childhood abuse. So we can only hope that Harry will get the help he needs, that there is wizarding psychologists and some like mood stabilizers. I don't know, the wizards might have access to like lithium or something, or maybe like some drop of blood from like a dragon's blade or something is like the mood stabilizer they have instead of Lamictal. So we can only hope that Harry gets proper psychological treatment for this severe problem sometime after the books ended, but given the fact that everyone in this series is grossly irresponsible, I wouldn't count on it. That's my character profile of Harry Potter. This is Argent Templar, signing out.